Hi guys, welcome to the second episode of the Art of Designing with Bootstrap tutorial series. In today's episode, we are going to talk about pricing tables and how you can create the best looking pricing tables for your site using Bootstrap. Your presenter today will be Beatrice Oliveira, Fine-Tuning CEO and founder. I'm Claudia Pereira, the Digital Marketing Manager at Fine-Tuning, and I will be your moderator today. We have just a few housekeeping notes before we begin. These sessions are free, they will be recorded, and will be available online. If you have any technical issues, just email me to claudia@finetuning.com. We'll be having a Q&A session at the end of the webinar, so feel free to submit your ideas, suggestions, and anytime during this session. Simply use the Q&A app on Google+, the comment section on YouTube, or Fine-Tuning Webinars hashtag. Today we'll be covering first, creating your file, second, step-by-step tutorial, and finally, 4 awesome pricing table examples. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to Beatrice.
Thank you, Claudia. Hi, guys. So I'm very excited to be here today, sharing a few ideas on how to create very cool pricing tables using Bootstrap-only styles. Please be patient. This is going to be a very, very thorough step-by-step tutorial. So I will go very pausely through all the steps that I want to show you for creating the pricing tables, but I assure you that at the end, the result is going to be awesome. So just stand by. And with this, I'm going to quickly show you how you can create your basic Bootstrap file. For those of you that have attended the previous webinar in this session, you already saw how to do this. For those of you that are new to this, I will quickly go through how you can create a basic HTML file for displaying Bootstrap structures and styles. Okay. And the first thing that you have to do, and just let me quickly show you that I already have a demo HTML file here. This file is completely empty at this point. So the first thing that you have to do is go to the Bootstrap website. And actually, there is a basic template that you can copy from. So you just have to copy this code. Let's go to the editor, and let's paste it. Since I want to use CDN for Bootstrap Resources, what I'll do is I'll click on another link that gives me a few more resources. I just have to copy the CDN information. So go back to my file, and what I'll do is I will replace this call to a local Bootstrap CSS file and this call to a local JS file by the CDN links. So I'll just delete these. I'll paste the code that I just copied. So these two are my CSS files, and I'll keep them here. My JS file is going to the bottom of the page to replace this call. And the last step, so right now I have the basic structure ready, no content so far. And my next step is going to be creating a very basic grid, a very basic CSS grid. Let me close a few of these tabs so that we can start working. What I'll do first is I will just quickly copy a container, and this container, what it does is it creates an element that has a predefined width. So let's just copy this, and here replacing the hello world. Copy, sorry. So let's copy this one. All right, so we have our container, and inside it we can now start creating the grid. So basically, let me just copy one column. What I want to do is I want to create pricing tables with 4 columns for this particular example. So what I'll do is, let me close this one. And I'll replace this for a column 3 element. This means that in the 12-column grid that Bootstrap provides, what we'll do is we will create columns. Each of those columns spans 3 elements from the grid. So this will be my content 1, and I'll just copy and paste. This is fine. Let me also just add quickly a heading to my page. Table. And with this said, let's refresh. Okay, this is the basic file structure that you have to create if you're starting from scratch, that you have to create to start doing your pricing table. So what comes next? Creating a base pricing table. And for this, there are several different approaches that you can come up with. What I did was I chose 3 Bootstrap elements, and what I'll do is I'll teach you how to create pricing tables with each of those 3 elements that I chose. It means that you can do it with other elements, probably you can. Well, these are my choices for today. So I'll start by teaching you how to create a Bootstrap-based pricing table with tables. And for this, let's go back to the Bootstrap website. And let's go to the table section. And you will see that there's plenty of code that can be used to create these nice looking tables in CSS. And the base structure for the table and the base element that defines the table layout is this class table. So I'll just copy this code and go back to my first element, which will be a table. And I will quickly create a header for the table. With 1 row inside it. Okay. And let us copy this to create the body. Right. Okay, and if we refresh it, you can see that we already have a basic table structure based on Bootstrap. So let's start adding content to it. So when you think of pricing tables, you think typically about a plan or a list of pricing plans and a price associated with it. And that's exactly what we're going to add to this heading section. So let's start by defining a heading for elements. And inside it, I'm going to create my first plan, which is going to be my standard plan. And I want to add the price to it. Let me also quickly show you. How you can create different styling using Bootstrap and using headings for different style text. Basically, Bootstrap includes a very special style when you use a small tag inside headings, creating this lighter text and smaller content within the same element. And this is exactly what we're going to do. So let's go back to our code. And Let's change line, create a small element. Let's add pricing information to it. So let's say that this plan costs $49 per month. And go back, refresh. So this is my initial information for creating the pricing table. And now I want to add to this particular pricing table, I want to add some text information to the body. What I'll do is I'll go to this website just to copy a little bit of text. Okay. So some Lorem Ipsum text. This is fine. Could be a description of the pricing plan. All right, it's getting some shape. And now I need an action button or an action link. So let us add, well, let's put this inside a paragraph element. And let's also add a link. That says, choose. Okay, so I have my basic elements for a pricing table in place. Okay, not much formatting so far, but this is what I want. What I'm going to do is I'm also going to center align all this text. And for this, Bootstrap also includes some classes that you can use. So if you go to, sorry, it says, you go to helper classes. Okay, they're not right here, but I'll tell you how to do it. You just have to select the full table and say that you want to align center to the text by using the class text center. If you take a look, you see that it's not applied to the head because this is an H4, which means that in this particular case, you're going to have to apply the class also to the H4 element. And with this, I have my very, very basic pricing table element based on tables. Okay, let us proceed to another example, which is, and that's not finished, okay? So don't think that we're done. This is just the beginning. Let's see how we can create a very basic element by using list groups. And what are list groups? Let's go back to Bootstrap. And list groups are, well, exactly a list, so a grouped element of list items, but with a very special formatting, so that you have this very thin line around them and separation between elements. And for creating list groups, you just have to come here and copy this code. And let's go back to our HTML file. Let's go to our second element because our first pricing table is ready. And let's paste the list group code. Okay, so our very basic list group is added. Let's do exactly the same that we have done for the table. So let's first start by adding a title. And what I'll do is I'll just copy this code inside my first element. That is fine. And in this case, I don't want these two elements to be on the same box. So I would like to have pricing separated from the plan title. So I want the price to be on my second element. And that is exactly what I'll do. So I'll just copy this and paste on my second element. Just remove the pricing from the first element. Let me convert this into heading 3. And I don't want the small element here, so I want it exactly like this. Okay. Okay, so basically I have my plan title, I have my price, and I have what this plan includes in text. I will create another element on the end of this list group so that I can add my action button. So basically, let's create a new list group item. And let's copy and paste. Oh, this is, okay, typo. Let's copy this and paste it on the left element of the list group. Perfect. I also want all this information to be center aligned. So I'll just add my helper class to this element. All right, so it's looking very, very good. So this is my second element. So we have a table, we have a list group, and now I want to show you how to create a basic table element using another Bootstrap component, which is called the panel. So let's move on to the panel. All right, and for this, you will see that panels are kind of similar to list groups, but they are richer. They have more elements that you can play with. Typically, they have the concept of a panel title. They have the concept of a panel footer, and you will see that there are more differences as I go along, and they allow for richer creation of elements. I will just quickly copy some panel code. Okay, let's add it to our HTML file, so my third element. Okay. All right, we have a nice panel. So let's also copy the title to this particular pricing plan. Let's copy the price, add it to the body, just put it all in the same line, easier to read. Okay. Right, but in this particular case, I don't want these two elements to display exactly quite like in the first one. So I want you to show a few alternatives. And what I'm going to do is, instead of an H4, I'm going to use a paragraph with a very special class, which is the lead. And I can also show you this in Bootstrap. So if we go to CSS and typography, you will see that there is a very special element, which is lead body copy. So it's kind of a very elegant type of text, a larger font type than the default text. And typically it's used to highlight some information. So in this case, I'm going to use this lead class and change this to a paragraph, both for my plan title as well as for my price. All right, looking good. Now I'm going to take advantage of another feature that comes with panels, which is, let's go back to panels. Okay, which has the ability to combine both panels and list groups. Yes, you can do it. So basically, a panel is defined, as I said, by a panel title, some content, eventually a footer. But you can actually put tables in it, and you can also put list groups in it and combine both elements. And this is exactly what I'll do. So to do this, you just have to paste the list group code below the panel body and inside the panel element. So if we go back to what we're doing, to our pricing table, what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy my first list group, so the first that I created, and I'm going to paste it just below my panel body. Put it inside. I'm going to add this text center element right in my panel. And I'll have to remove both these lines because I already have a plan name and price. Okay. And yes, it is looking almost as I want it. Okay, so we have three basic elements, three basic components that can create pricing tables. One is based on a table, one is based on the list group, and another one is based on a panel. If I wanted, I could use a footer element here on the panel. I just don't want to do it. The footer element would display, and I can quickly go back. So in case you want to display that last element as a gray area, you can actually use the footer element. For this particular demo, I'm not going to do this. Okay, and next step is how can we make those titles look better? Okay, how can we make usage of colors and more interesting formatting of the title? For this table element, I'm not going to do anything, so I kind of like it this way. I want this first pricing table to be quite clean, not very intrusive, so I'm going to leave it as is. And I'm going to show you what kind of elements you can use to improve the looks of list groups for starters. Okay, so let's go back to the list group. And if we scroll down a little bit, you'll be able to see that we have a few elements that we can use. There is one class that is the active class. The active class will apply the primary color in Bootstrap, which by default is blue. It can be another color, but by default is blue. You can either use the active element to apply to the first element, but there are also other colors which can be used, namely the disabled color, which will create this light gray, or some contextual classes to make usage of other colors like green or blue, yellow, or red. What I'm going to do is, in this case, is I'm going to copy the active class. And I'm going to apply it to my list group title, or first element in this case. So I have this nice blue for my plan name. And I will do some more, some other things with the rest of the table, but for now, let's keep it this way. Let me quickly also show you how you could use other colors. And if we go back to the list group, you will see that if, for example, if we wanted it to look green, we could just copy the corresponding class. And here, instead of active, we would get, for example, green. Okay, so let's go back to what we're doing. Now let's work on the panel. And for panels, you have other types of classes. So the default will be just light gray, but we also have contextual alternatives. These not only will apply a color to the title, but also a border around the panel itself, the entire panel. And this is true for all contextual alternatives. So if you decide that you want the panel to be green, it will also have a light green border around it. There are also what we're going to do is we will copy the primary code. And if we go to our panel, instead of a default panel, we will have a primary panel. Okay, so you can see that now we have also a color for the plan title. There is another option that can be used, which are helper classes. And in Bootstrap, helper classes include several types of classes, which are background styles. So also for text, and we will see this later, but there are a group of classes that can be used to apply color to background to any element. So it doesn't have to be to one of these elements that we're seeing at this moment. You could apply this typically to any HTML element. In this case, we could copy these, for example, BG primary class, and apply it to elements to format those colors, background colors. But there are some limitations in the usage of helper classes. Typically, on list groups, you cannot apply them neither to the title or to any list group elements because it will not display. So list groups are kind of limited to its own classes, the ones that we have seen. When it comes to panels, those helper classes for backgrounds cannot be applied neither to titles or footers. You can apply those to inner elements, but you cannot apply those to titles or footers. They will not do anything. Okay. So let's move on to our presentation. Oh, and I would like also to talk a little bit about what we have when you're using a bind tuning theme. Yes, this is important, right? So if you are using a bind tuning theme to create your pricing tables, we have our own very special helper classes. So basically, when you are in bind tuning, customizing your own template, you will not be using CSS default colors, right? So you will be using your own template colors. Either you have a red website or a blue website or whatever. There is a page inside, a demo page inside our site that displays some extra helper classes that we have in our themes. Namely, and if you take a look at bind tuning, you can customize a set of basic 6 colors. And we have helper classes to create backgrounds with all these 6 colors. So if when customizing your theme, you decide that you want your theme basic color to be, let's say, kind of red, you will have a helper class that is able to apply that same color, okay? So what we have are BG color 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. These helper classes can also be used when using bind tuning themes. Okay. All right, and now let's go to the subtitles. And for subtitles, and if you go back to our example, subtitles, at least what I call subtitles, are in this case the prices. So basically, I have these 2 elements, and I would like to create some variation for the 2. I want my first one to have a very light gray, and I want my second one to have a very light blue. So for the list group, what I'll have to do, and let's go back to Bootstrap. What I'll have to do is use one of these very, very special classes that are provided for list groups. And I will use this list group item info class that creates, this will be for the second one. So I want to disable because I want a light gray. So since I want the light gray, I want to disable class. So this is what I'll copy. And we're going to apply it to this item. Okay. All right. And for the panel, what I want is a very light blue. So let's go to the panel section. And since there are no contextual classes to apply to lines, what we will do is use the helper classes. So let's go back to the CSS, to the helper classes, to the backgrounds, and use a bg info element. And apply it to the body element. Okay. So we already have this kind of subtitle area formatted, but now I want to do something more with these prices, okay? So I want more detail. I want to highlight some of the elements. So I want these prices to really stand out. And typically what you see on price tables, either you have this /month very small, or you have the dollar sign also small. So there are variations that can be created, have more interesting ways of displaying this pricing information. So let's start by formatting the pricing within the list group. So if we go to the list group, what I want to do is I want to apply a small element to the dollar sign, and I want to also apply a small element to the month. Okay, if you take a look now, we do have smaller views, smaller display on those two elements. So now I can really see the price. The price, it stands out. And for this particular element, oh, and probably it's kind of small. So let me just kind of increase the size by setting this as a heading 2, not 3. Yeah, it looks better. But if you take a look, and by applying the disabled element, you see that the text now is also kind of grayish. And I want to stand out at 49. I want it to be black. So I'll take advantage of a few classes that are actually provided by bind tuning. So bind tuning themes not only provide those helper classes that I talked about for backgrounds, but they also provide some contextual colors for text. And not only for the typical text, the typical Bootstrap text, but we provide a few other classes that allow you to set a dark text and a light text. And for this purpose, I have another file here. Let me just copy this. Okay. Okay, just copy all this, and then I'll explain exactly what all this is. And let's create a style section at the end. Right. So basically what I copied are some styles that are already within our theme that allow you to set dark backgrounds and light backgrounds, dark text and light text, and the rest I'll explain later. So for what we are just doing, I want this particular heading to have a dark text. Right, so there it is. And since I've copied a few more code, you can see that I'm removing the margin from the leads. And this is so we can have this nice alignment on the panel. So not having that extra spacing on the panel. This way it's more elegant and balanced. Okay, so I'm happy with the pricing on the list box. And on this case, for the panel, what I want to do is I really want this month's text to be really, really, really tiny. So what I'll do is I just want to apply not one small element, but I want to apply 3 small elements so that I can really reduce this text. All right, and it looks just the way that I want it. So I want to highlight the price, not the recurrence of the payment, and it's looking exactly as I want it. Now that this top area is kind of looking good, I want to work on the bottom area. And we're talking about the action buttons, which do not look like buttons, so they're still links. And I do want to apply a few buttons. So when it comes to the action buttons, we're going to use some Bootstrap elements for formatting button styles. And these are the default Bootstrap buttons when you apply these classes, button defaults, but we can also make usage of colors and sizes for buttons and block elements. And this is exactly what we're going to do. So going back to our example, for my first element, I want it to be a button. So let's go and copy this primary button, which will be the blue. Let's go to the table element. Okay. But for this particular table, I think it's kind of big, so I want it to be like really, really tiny. And if I go to the size section, I want it to be extra small. So I'm going to copy this button XS class. Okay, and it's exactly as I wanted, so very, very, very small. For my second price table, I want this particular action button to also be a button, but I want it to be a very, very large button, so filling the entire space. And what I'll do is I will also copy the button primary code. This button here. And I want it to display like a block element. And for that, I will just copy this code here. Okay. Let's check it out. Okay, looking perfect. For my last element, I want it to be just a regular button. So I'll just copy this particular these classes here. Okay. And I'll just have, let's see if it loads. Not loading. Okay, got it. Okay, and I have my regular button. Now let's add some pretty items to this. And what I'm going to suggest is actually using icons. And we have some options available. Bootstrap already includes glyph icons. So if I take you to the components area, you will see that right at the top, you have glyph icons. So these are already included in Bootstrap. You have about 250 icons included in Bootstrap. If you don't want to use this, you can actually use Font Awesome. Font Awesome has about, well, over 500 icons at this moment and always increasing. So it's a very, very good option. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use glyph icons at this moment so that we can create visual clues on what you can do within the pricing table. So let's start by adding a small arrow to this tiny button here, so that it's clear that I can move forward by clicking. So if we go here and we can select the icon that we want. So basically, I want this glyph icon here. Let me just copy the name of the glyph icon. And basically, what you have to do is very, very simple. Let's go inside the button, and I can add either an I element or a span element. It will do either way, and apply these classes. And you will see that I have the icon. Probably I'm doing something. Okay. I want also this icon to be pulled to the right. So I'll apply a special class. And probably I have something that is misspelled. I'm pretty sure. So okay, let's leave it as is. Let me go back here. And let's use it like this. Okay. All right, perfect. Now, on this case, what I want to do is I want to add some information about, for example, special items on this list that are included for this particular plan. And I want to do it by adding, for example, like an OK sign. Something like, for example, this one here, okay, the glyph icon OK. What we can do is let's just copy the glyph icon code so that I don't get it wrong. And what we'll do is we'll add it to, for example, let's say that this particular plan includes this element. And let me try pulling it to the right now. All right, it's not this icon, so it's the OK. Perfect. So now I know that on this pricing plan, this is included. And I'm going to do the same for the last list. But on this list, I want this list to be one of those lists that do not have text here and only have the information if it's included or not. So I'll replace the whole text. And I'll just copy the glyph icon and replace each element on this list. So let's say that this is included. This is also included. Or for example, this one is not. I'll say those. And let's copy this to the last item. Oh, and we don't need this, obviously. Okay, looking good. All right, so I want to add a few more visual clues to this particular list. So what I'm going to do is I want this text to be green and these ones to be red. So we can go to the helper classes, to the contextual colors, and I'll just use this text success for these particular icons. So the OK will be a success. This one will be danger, which gives me a red. Okay, looking like really, really good. So now I have visual information that the first element is included and both second and third are not included. Okay. All right. Okay, this is exactly what we talked about. And with this, we have the basic elements for creating the examples that I want to show today. Okay, so if we go back to this, you will see that we have our first example ready to create a full table. We have our second example ready to create another table, and this one is going to help us create two different types of tables. So for our first, for our first example, let us start copying the table element, and we will create table based. right, so we have our first element for a table-based structure. And on this case, I want to add an image to each of the elements on this table. So if you take a look at my files, I have an images folder with a few images. And what I'll do is inside this text and above the text, I will add an image element. That is going to use one of the images. Something like this, okay? All right. So I just have to copy and paste this code. So I have my first column. I will copy this whole code here. Let me just paste here. All right. Okay. And I want to create 2, 3, 4 columns. Perfect. I want to give them different names. Okay, so let's say that my first 3 and it's $0 per month, and my second is my standard and it has another image, and then I have my third, which will be my professional plan. This will cost like $99 and use another image. And then I have my fourth will be my premium plan. And this will cost $199 per month. All right, perfect. So I want to highlight one of the plans as being my recommended plan. And for that, what I'm going to do is add one of the classes that I already talked to you about on this title here for the plan's name. So it's the second element, and I want this particular heading to have a class. So it's going to be my background primary. And if you take a look, this text just turned gray. I want it to be white. I'm going to take advantage of one of those classes that we also talked about, one of those contextual classes that are included in bind tuning themes, which is the light text. All right, perfect. I think that this is like looking very good, and now I can see which is my highlighted recommended plan for this option. Okay, let's move on to the second example using the list group. And let us copy this. Okay. And let's go back to our first example and copy the list group. We'll just have to add a row element. Okay. Go lower on the page. Okay, we have our first list group based table element here. This is already my highlighted element, right? So I already have it colored. So what I'll do is I will create a basic element before this one. So I'll just copy the entire table element. And I don't want to be active, obviously, so I'm just going to remove this active. All right. I want this to be my free plan. So it doesn't really include almost anything because it's free. So I'm going to remove this option, set price to 0. All right, perfect. And I want this icon not to be as, this button not to be as highlighted as it looks right now. So I'm just going to use a default button. So if we go back, I'm not going to use the button primary, I'm going to use the button default. Right, and now I can copy this to the other two list elements. Okay, so this will be my professional plan. It costs $99. This will be my premium plan. It costs $199. Okay. And I want to use the icons so that I can say that features are included. So let's say that this one includes 2 features, and the last one actually includes everything since it's premium. Right, perfect. I want to create something also different. So I don't want this gutter between the columns. So I want all of this to be close together. And there is no Bootstrap class to do this. So we had to create one class of our own. The class is no gutter. You can just copy this information afterwards. And what I will do is I will copy the no gutter class to the column elements. Oh, sorry, to the row elements. Okay. And by copying that class to the row element, you will see that all the elements will be pulled together. All right, perfect. So it's kind of looking like a very, very nice pricing plan. Last thing that I want to do is I want to pull up this a little bit so that it really stands out. And I also have a very special class for that. Below, you can also copy that later. So it's the pull-up class. And I'll just copy this pull-up class to my active element. All right, and it's looking really good. So I have my list group example ready. Let's go to the third example based on the panel. So let's copy this information here. Let's remove this. Don't need this. Panel based. And let's copy the panel. All right. So basically, if we scroll down, you will see that we have our first panel element. In this case, I don't want to go from my cheapest to my most expensive plan. I want to go backwards. So I want my most expensive plan to be highlighted first. So what I'll do is I'll change this to my premium plan. It will be my most expensive program. But I also want all my lines here on the list group to be on the same shade that my title is. And for that, if you remember, we have very special classes. So we have this list group item info. I'm just copy and paste all that to all the list items. Okay. Now there it is. What I'll also do is now I'll copy this for the other columns and create like a very basic styling for the other plans that are not highlighted. So the other ones that are not highlighted, we're going to have the default panel. So this will be the professional. We don't want this to have these colors here, so let's just remove this. Okay, almost done. Oh, and I forgot that my first plan obviously has to include everything. So I need this to be correct. Okay, my second plan will probably include 2 of the things that I'm selling. All right, and based on this, I can create my last element, which is my standard plan. And let's fix the icons. Okay, so it's looking good. Now, since there is no information on what these items are, I need an extra column here on this side to tell me exactly what these are. So we will copy this element and we'll put it before the first one. The thing is, there will be no text here, so I'll just leave an empty character. There will be no price. And on the other elements, I will just have text. Make it easier, I'll just create like the same text for all the elements. Okay, and I want this to be right aligned. All right, and I need to remove my button, obviously. Oh, not this one, this one. Okay, let's check it out. All right, I want to give you an extra tip on how you can also add some very nice information to this list when you have not only checkboxes and information about what's included or not, but when you want to give information about quantified values like numbers, 5 licenses, 1 gigabit, whatever. So I'm going to add an extra line to all the table elements. Very quick. And instead of this, what I want to do is use another element from Bootstrap that are the labels. And I'm going to use one of these success labels. So I'm just going to copy and paste. And I'm going to say that my premium plan has 20 gigs. Copy this to the other elements. This one, let's say, includes 10. And my last one can include 2. All right. Oh, okay. So we just have to move the info classes that are painting those lines in blue. All right, perfect. So now I have a different type of pricing table that has information about what's included. I can check if it's included or not in this plan. I can see what is the recommended plan, and I have numbered information about elements that are also included in the plan. Okay. And for my last example, so all these examples are very light examples. I wanted to bring you something darker in case it matches your company. What I'm going to do is copy this panel-based example, and we will create a dark-based example based on this. And we're almost done, guys. So a dark pricing table. Let's see if it's here. All right, it's here. So for this dark pricing table, I'm going to use classes that I already showed today. So let's have some different styles to all these. So for my first panel, I'm going to use a warning as well as for my last 2. I want this one to be a success panel. All right. I also want to change the color in the buttons. So for the success panel, I want it to have a green button, and I want to keep my green label. For the other panels, I want to have a yellow button and a yellow label. Okay, now let's add dark colors to all these columns. And for that, what we're going to do is add the BG dark to all the body and list items. So BG body is going to be added to body elements and all list items. Where is my body? Okay. Oops. Dark. Sorry, it's not BG body, it's BG dark. Yeah, this is better. Okay. And let's add it. Replace this info. And also here. And also to the last one. Almost done. So I can see that I cannot really read these text elements here because they're gray. So what I have to do is convert these into white by using the text light class that is included in Bind Tuning themes. So let's do it for the prices. So let's add text light class. And I'll also do it for the success icons because it seems like I cannot really see them. It's kind of dark. So we'll add to the price and replace all these success text. Okay, and also for this price and the success. All right, perfect. Now I see it. I only have to replace my first list colors. All right, and we're done. So basically, we just created in less than 1 hour, we created 4 different types of pricing tables using exclusively Bootstrap elements, and that's what it counts. So quickly go through our first table-based element pricing table, our list group-based pricing table, our panel-based pricing table, and a panel variation in dark. Okay, guys, this is what I had to show. I hope you enjoyed it today. Do we have any questions, Claudia?
We don't have any questions, but you can email to Beatrice using her email, beatrice@pointtuning.com. I think we're gonna wrap up. Here's our resources for the webinars, pointtuning.com/webinars, our knowledge base, and our articles at the Academy. Okay, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.
Okay, everyone, thank you so much for being with us today, and I hope to see you again in our next webinar of this The Art of Bootstrap series. Bye.
Bye.